If you want FPS like this, then follow this guide here, which leads you through the best settings for your game here. My name is KIRNEILL from SenseQuality. We work with professional gamers and streamers to enhance and boost the performance of their setup and PC. And if you do want to check that out, you could visit SenseQuality.com, where we got you covered with that. Now let's get into it. So basically the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go through, of course, the in-game settings here. So there is a few things that change this time around. So make sure that you watch a full video as we're going to go through just a little changes here and there. So for the display mode, you're going to do full screen exclusive on Windows 11. Full screen borderless and exclusive kind of gets around the same FPS, but I prefer full screen exclusive for sure on Windows 10. Now on your screen refresh rate, you want to make sure that this is going to be the highest hertz of your monitor here, so that should be good. And make sure your display adapter matches your NVIDIA or AMD GPU here, or Intel GPU. Your display resolution, that should max out here, so whatever the display resolution on your monitor is, that should be good. Then we're going to scroll down here to custom frame rate. Now if you don't get over let's say 300 FPS, then you should set a custom frame rate here, and honestly you should limit this as low as you can bear. I usually do 30 in the menus and 300 in my gameplay if I'm not getting over 300 FPS. Now if we are, you want to set this to unlimited here, and that way you can get all the FPS to benefit. Now we're going to go to HDR. You want to make sure to turn that off, and that should be good. Now this is where things changed a little bit here, so pay attention. So for the resolution, you could set it to just 100, that way it matches your monitor here. Then for the upscaling and the sharpening, you want it set to fidelity cast. Of course the strength is going to be 100 here. The anti-aliasing, this is where it gets interesting. You want the anti-aliasing to preferably be Filmic SMA T2X. This is going to take a little bit of FPS away, however your game's going to look perfectly fine here. The anti-aliasing quality, you want to set that to normal. Video memory scale, this is where a lot of people are messing up here. You don't want this set to 90, you actually want to set it to 80 or lower. That way if you're getting any dev errors or game ship errors or anything like that, or your game's crashing, this will prevent that from happening there, or it'll at least reduce it there, so that should be good. Texture resolution, now this really depends on what kind of GPU that you have here and what kind of performance that your computer could do. Now with my computer, I have of course like a 4090, so I could basically set this to normal and that'll be perfectly fine. That's what I would suggest, to be honest. But basically if you're on a low-end computer, I would definitely set that to low, and that'll help. We're gonna go into detail with these little settings, so keep on watching here of why this one is blank here, so I'll go into details about that. So the thing that I want to really emphasize to you guys here on the texture resolutions and the texture filter anisotropic resolution that a lot of people don't tell you is that the lower you place it, the higher your 0.1% FPS. What is 0.1% FPS? That's the FPS when you're in a gunfight, when you need it the most, when you're seeing an enemy first and everything like that. So the reason why professional players put this as low as possible is because of the fact that you get better 0.1% FPS, which means that your computers have more performance in a gunfight against an enemy, which means that you probably get to see them a little bit sooner than normal here. So that is why a lot of professional players like their settings as low as possible. Some people don't understand it, but that is essentially why. So basically if you have like a 4090 or like a 3090, yeah, you could set this to normal. However, a lot of professional players do use like very low to low. Honestly, if you're on a 4090, just set it to normal high. Now for nearby level of detail, distance level of detail, you set that to low. Clutter, we'll get into that. Particle quality, you could set that to low right there. Particle quality level, you could set this to normal. Persistent damage layers, you want to turn this off. Shader quality, you can set this to medium here. Tessellation off. Terrain memory minimum. On-demand texture streaming off. Streaming quality, you could set this to normal here. Volumetric quality, you could set that to low. Deferred physics quality, you could set this to off. Water caustics, you could set this to off. Shadow map resolution, you could honestly set this to normal. However, prefacing this, you will lose a lot of FPS for just setting this to like normal here, so just know that. But generally the game does look better on normal. Shadow quality, you could set this to low. Spot cache, you could set this to medium or high here. It really doesn't matter here, but this does help. Particle lighting, you could set this to just normal. Ambient occlusion, you could set that to off. Screen space reflection, set that to off. Static reflection low. And basically weather grid volumes, you could set that to off there. Now with the NVIDIA REFLEX low latency, let me explain this to you because a lot of people just don't explain it to you guys. So let me give you guys like an insight. So if the NVIDIA REFLEX is on, that is for particularly GPU bounded situations. That'll just improve your overall latency. It might decrease your FPS, but your latency is getting lower as well, which is a good thing. Now, NVIDIA REFLEX on plus boost, that is for CPU bounded situation where your CPU is going to be the bottleneck. So basically, I would suggest on plus boost. So that should be good, and that is perfectly fine right there. Depth of field off, motion blur off, weapon motion blur off, and film grain, I just set that to 0 there, so that should be good. Field of view, you could set this to 120 if you're on like a PC and if you're using keyboard and mouse. However, if you are using a controller and you worry about aim assist and everything like that, you probably want to set this to 103, and that should help as well. So that should be good right there. Now, with the first camera movement, set that to 50%. Third person camera movement, set that to 50% there. Now, with the interface here, this is where it gets like a little iffy here. So with the skip introduction movie, you definitely want that on. Parallax effects, you want that off there. And then you could go into color customization. You want to put the color filter on filter 2. You want it to set to world, and you want the color intensity to 100, and that should be good there as well. So now let's get into just the nitty gritty here, which you guys are probably wondering about. So essentially, what we're going to do is we are going to go into your documents. We're going to go into Call of Duty. We're going to go into players and options.3.cod22.cst. Now in this, you want to control find, and you want to control find async first, and then you'll see it right here. You'll see that it's marked as false for me. For NVIDIA GPUs, you want this as false. For AMD GPUs, you want this as true here. So that is a little tip right there. Now, if we scroll down here, you can actually adjust all the settings from this view right here, and I'll leave it in a link below here, which you could just copy and paste onto your PC. However, I would just change a few stuff here. So then what you want to look at is basically the clutter. You want to go to control find and then control find clutter. You want to set that to 100 there. That'll just increase your FPS a little bit. And then corpse culling, you want to set that to 0.5 there, and that'll increase your FPS as well. Now, if you scroll down here, you can see that you can change your render worker count. And let's say you had a 16 core CPU here. Now on Ryzen, you could honestly leave as default here. That way, that'll be perfectly fine. It's usually one less than your core count. So if you wanted to check your core count here, I will go to performance. Then I would go to just right here where it says cores. So it looks like I have 24 cores. So if you're on Ryzen, that'll be 23, but I am on Intel, so it's a little bit different. So on Intel, I believe the sweet spot for Intel is going to be 7 here. So if you want the best of the best out of your Intel, and your Intel has more than 8 cores here, 8 cores or more, then the sweet spot is 7. If your Intel has less than that, then you just want to leave it as default here, which is good. The video memory scale, you could change here too. I would just put that at 0.8 and you should be fine. So that should be good as well here. Now, let's get into just the nitty gritty here. So what you want to do is you want to go to your NVIDIA control panel. So let's go to the NVIDIA control panel settings here. You want to go to manage 3D settings, and then what you'll do is you're going to go to vertical sync. You want to turn that off. Threaded optimization, you can go ahead and turn that on there. With the texture filter quality, you could set that to high performance. Shader cache size, you could set that to 100 gigabytes. Power management mode, you could set that to prefer max performance there, so that should be good. Then you want to check your change resolution. So basically, you want to set this to your default just resolution here of your monitor and your default refresh rate here, so that should be good as well. I would say a lot of people ask, should I use GSYNC or not? I would say if you're looking for less input delay, you shouldn't use GSYNC. If you care about input delay, you don't use GSYNC. If you want your game to look smooth, you do use GSYNC here. So that should be good. And of course, the NVIDIA color settings as well. Usually I set my brightness to like around 55. I set my contrast to like just around 55 to 60. Then the digital vibrance is where the sauce happens, where you can set this up to 90. So that should be fine right there. So that is good. And then what I'll show you guys, and I'll leave this link down in the description, is our little secret here. So this is where you go to NVIDIA Profile Inspector. So now I'm just going to open this right here. I'm going to open NVIDIA Profile Inspector, and this is going to be left in a link down in the description here. You're going to have all these files. I'm going to run this as an administrator, and to adjust all your NVIDIA managed 3D settings and additional settings here to boost your FPS, you're going to click on this little magnifying glass, and you're going to click on import user defined profiles, and you're going to import the profile. You're going to import base profile 1, and then you're going to press OK, and that should be fine there. Now for Call of Duty specifically, what you can do is type in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 22. You can import this profile and you can import COD Modern Warfare 2, and that should be good as well. So what this does is it enables Resize Bar and just adjusts your managed 3D settings for you, which will boost your FPS as a whole, which is good here. So that is fine there. And then let me show you actually how to use just NVIDIA clean install, which I'll leave also in the description here. Now, if you don't want to go through these steps, I already made the driver for you, so I'll leave that one down below as well. However, if you did want to make your own best NVIDIA driver, a lot of people ask me, KIRNEILL, what's the best NVIDIA driver here? So I'm going to show you how to make it. So basically, you're going to want to install the best driver for your hardware. Basically, I think the best ones right now is 526.98 and 531.18. So you could install either or, and that should be perfectly fine. So if I wanted to manually select it, I would manually select the 531.9.18. Then I'll click next, and basically it shows you everything that's included with your NVIDIA driver here. Now, to be specifically clear, if you are using GeForce Experience, then just install your driver normally on the NVIDIA site. That is perfectly fine. If you're not using NVIDIA overlays or anything like that, then I would install it this way. That way you get just a slight FPS boost here. Really, the only thing that you need out of all of this stuff is the display driver. So you would just click on next there, and what it'll do is it'll compile everything together and make you a default packaging where you could just go ahead and run that and run your own custom made driver here. So from now on, you get the best NVIDIA driver every single time without the rest of stuff, unless you actually need it. Some people like using NVIDIA Broadcast and just NVIDIA filters. That's when you just install just a regular driver that I recommend there. So that should be good. And once that is done, while that's going, what we'll do is we'll go through here. So I would not actually change any of these options except for disable installer telemetry and advertising. That way it's one less thing that's being ran on your computer. Then you'll click next, and what you'll do is you'll actually build a package if you want to just keep that just in your files here. So I usually just save this. I just name it like what I want here, then just save it, and then you just run that exe, and then you should be good. Or you could just install it right here and just make life easy, which is fine. And after that, what we're gonna do is we're also gonna show you guys what to do for installing a new driver from fresh. So what you're gonna do is run DDU here. So as we explained in the previous videos, we're gonna go to, and I'll leave all this down in the description. So you have your new driver here and you want to install it. What I would personally do is use DDU, completely erase everything, wipe all the drivers that you had in the past, and install this fresh here. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to go and hold shift, then you're going to want to go to Windows, then you're going to want to click power, then click restart. In restart, you should see troubleshoot. You're going to click that, then you're going to click startup setting. As soon as you click startup settings, you're going to restart, and you're going to press 4 or safe mode. Once you get into safe mode is when you should be using DDU here. So if I open up the DDU program that I'm going to provide you guys, what you're going to do is run this as an administrator, the DDU uninstaller, and then what you're going to do is click on, this is while you're in safe mode, you're going to click on select device type, and you're going to click on GPU. So this is going to detect my NVIDIA driver, and I'm going to clean and restart while this program is happening. You're going to unplug your Ethernet driver. That way your Windows does not install any random driver here for your graphics driver, and then you should be good. And then after it restarts, it'll restart you back into normal Windows. Your screen might look a little bit weird here. That's when you'll run your natural driver that you custom made, which is perfect here. So that should be good as well. And then what you're going to want to do is, how I usually check it is I'll go to NVIDIA control panel again. You're going to want to click on system information here, and you're going to want to make sure that Resize Bar right here says yes. That means that it is enabled in your BIOS. If this is not enabled in your BIOS here, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and restart your PC here and spam delete. Once you get into the BIOS, look for Resize Bar. It's usually in the PCIe settings, and go ahead and enable that and exit, save, and reset. That way you should be getting all the FPS that you deserve here, which is perfectly fine. And that should be everything's here. So I hope that really helps. Also, a little added tip, I would suggest if you're playing Warzone to use the Steam app. The Steam app, it's much more, I would say, smoother of an experience. So you won't run into like a lot of issues here and stuff like that. So it definitely does, from what I've seen in multiple computers, reduce the amount of like scanner repairs that you get. So if you have Warzone, you can just go ahead and download Steam. Just download on that. It's for free, and use the Steam app there, and that should be good. Now, the last thing that we'll go through is what are the best PC parts for Warzone, right? Or for gaming in general. We could just go through gaming. So if we're going through the best PC parts, I would say the first is probably the 7800X 3D CPU plus like a 4090. That's pretty good. If you wanted to, the second is probably like a 13900K. I mean, they're like that, guys. They're really close, plus a 4090, so that's pretty good. A lot of people are asleep on the 4080s as well, so I would go, if I had to do a budget build, I'll probably go with a 13700K and a 4080, or I'll probably go with a 7800X 3D and a 4080. If you're in an extreme budget situation, I'll go with a 5800X 3D plus like a 4070 or 4070 Ti. The 4070s might not be out yet, but the 4070 Ti's are, so that is exactly what I'll do if I wanted to get max FPS here, which is good. Now, in terms of RAM, just to give you a deep dive, if you're on DDR4, I would go B-Die. If you're on DDR5, I would go with Hynix RAM. So basically, those are going to be the high frequency RAMs that you could do on Intel. If you are on a new Ryzen system, that means the Ryzen 7000s or higher, I would go with a 6000 megahertz kit of RAM, and then you should be good. But if you're on an older Ryzen system, I'll go with the B-Die here, which is perfect. So I hope this really helps you guys, and I hope you guys enjoy, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day here. And if you guys need any type of performance boost and any kind of overclocking services, you can go ahead and visit SenseQuality.com, where we go ahead and provide you that FPS boost that you deserve here to improve your KD and overall performance. And if you don't get that FPS boost, we'll go ahead and give you your money back here. So I hope that really helps, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your night, and let me know what else videos that you would like me to come out with today.